Test, test. I think this is nice and loud. Don't have to have my coaching voice too loud today. Well, hello everyone. And on behalf of Oregon Tech and every one of the staff members here, we want to thank you for joining us in this celebration. This is such an exciting day for Oregon Tech and our softball program. We appreciate all you fans and supporters that I see out in the crowd to come out and spend this day with us this morning and dedicating this field. Today, we officially break ground on the John and Lois Stillwell Softball Stadium. I'd like to share just a few highlights of the history of the softball program. We just completed the 43rd year of Oregon Tech softball here at Oregon Tech. In 43 years, this program historically has been able to achieve 1,031 wins, a national title, a Final Four appearance, several other playoff opportunities, and in that have been able to see hundreds of just outstanding alumni come through this program and get degrees here from Oregon Tech and go on and just be key contributors to our society and community at large. It's an honor here for me today to be here today as the head softball coach at Oregon Tech. And I'm humbled by this gift from John and Lois Stillwell, as we all are as a university. But as the head softball coach that gets to see transition in a what's already a rich tradition in Oregon Tech softball just becomes something that takes another step and another improvement forward. I'm just very pleased to be able to be sharing my excitement with you guys here today. The field improvement details, just so everybody knows what we're looking at, for those of you that may have got a little bit of background, but at the same time, getting into the details, the entire field's going to be a turf, state-of-the-art turf infield and outfield softball playing facility. That includes turfed bullpens on each side for pitchers and opposing team pitchers to warm up. We're going to have a new set of bleachers that it's going to be a wraparound style behind home plate so that we could create a lot more fan capacity and seating from such a great viewing area, including the press box up top. We're also going to be putting in a brand new building that John really wanted to make sure happened, and this building is going to include brand new restroom spots. So we'll have two new restrooms for what we've been dealing with here for a long time, and I know some of you and really I've had a lot of people joking about our outhouses for years, but it'll be nice to not have the leaning crappers moving forward. But in that building, we're going to have new restrooms, concessions, and then a team locker room for our team, which is just going to be outstanding. The end result of this field, once it's completed, is going to make this stadium one of the best in the NAIA, not to mention just one of the best in the country. And to have it right here on Oregon Tech campus and in Klamath Falls is just going to be a huge improvement for just another great visible facility here on Oregon Tech campus, as well as just something that's going to attract new opportunities to Oregon Tech and Klamath Falls in general, with improved youth camps and opportunities that we'll have to run youth camps and tournaments. This could bring more visitors, increased revenue to the Klamath Falls area and to the Oregon Tech campus as well. So I'm very excited to be able to see that take place. At this time, I'd like to say a few thank yous to some folks. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Dr. Nagy and the university for all their support of this project. I'd like to thank the Oregon Tech Foundation for all their involvement and the work behind the scenes. So if we can give them all a round of applause. Dr. Nagy's been very instrumental in getting a lot of things going in a short time here. He's a mover and a shaker, and it's been nice to see a lot of the things that we've been able to move forward with as a university, and this field is another step in that direction. I'd also like to recognize ECS Engineering for all of their time and effort that they put into getting this architectural rendering and being instrumental in this project with their engineering and surveying services. So thank you, ECS. I know I saw some folks out there that are representing them today. And on a couple of personal notes, I'd like to take this time to thank somebody that's just very dear to me. sometimes as a head coach, you're the one that's always in the spotlight, and you're the one that, that is always getting recognized for your team's accomplishments. You know, people are coming up and wanting to interview you or talk to you, and I think a lot of times what folks don't realize, unless you're in the coaching profession or have been around coaching for a long time, you don't realize how much the assistant coaches do for you and what they mean to programs and what they do behind the scenes. That sometimes it's a lot of thankless and hours that are quite honestly donated for their services. But I want to thank Coach Kelly Reese, who's back here today, who's been an assistant coach here for us for 5 years, and all the things that she's done for our program. But I also like to take the time to thank Bill Fagan for his 22 years of service here at Oregon Tech as an assistant softball coach. As I mentioned earlier, this program's won 1,031 games in its history, but Coach Fagan has been a part of over 820 wins here in his 22 years and as an assistant coach at Oregon Tech. And I want to thank his wife, Lana Fagan, who's also here today, just for all of the support that she's given me in the softball program. So thank you guys both again very much. Prior to my arrival here as the softball coach, there was a head softball coach by the name of Mary Bradford, who was here for 29 years. I actually talked to her on the phone over the weekend. She wasn't able to make this, and I'm hoping she'll make a dedication service or ceremony here later this year. But Mary Bradford put in 29 years working with this athletic department and part of the history of Oregon Tech and founding this softball program, creating it, starting it from scratch and building it into what it was when I was able to come in 2004 as a new coach. And then, as everybody knows, Coach Miles, who's been here, was also the co-head softball coach for 10 years. So I want to thank Mary Bradford and Coach Miles for all they did to build this program. And lastly today, I'd really like to make sure I personally give one more just heartfelt and humble thank you to John Stillwell and Lois Stillwell, who without them this day wouldn't be made possible. And John and Lois were two people that obviously became just enamored with supporting and being around such a great group of student athletes that Oregon Tech is able to put on the fields and the courts and on the tracks every year. And with that, John and Lois became fans of Oregon Tech softball, and I was blessed to be able to get to know them, both on and off the field. And in a personal way, it just meant so much for me to know, that their support was something that meant so much to our student athletes. As many of you know, not only do they have, contributions through what they're doing here today for their major gift for this field renovation to take place, but John and Lois hold several or have several scholarships through the foundation that support our student athletes both athletically and academically. And they've also done so much for this community, including a lot of upgrades and improvements that take place at the Klamath County Fairground. And with all of that, I just would like to right now recognize John and Lois again for all that they've done. So on behalf of the Oregon Tech softball team and all of my current players that are here and all the several hundred alums that have been here, again, we just appreciate all of your support and efforts, because again, I know I see a lot of fans out there today that support all of our teams, so thank you. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce one of my current players who was just recently named to the honorable mention NAIA All-American team, and that makes her a two-time All-American here at Oregon Tech. She's a junior from Chehalis, Washington, Allie Graham.
Good morning, everyone. Coach just said I'm junior, but currently now I'm a senior, which is crazy to think about. I play first base and I pitch a little bit, and I'm currently a sophomore in the radiologic science program. Getting a new field is something that I've never actually been a part of. My high school field was never new, it was very old. So this is something that is so exciting for me, and I know for the girls Just being able to get those extra reps in every day and working harder and having a brand new field that we can practice on no matter the weather, I think is going to have a huge impact on this team. Being a senior now, the love of the game is something that I really cherish, but taking care of your field and getting a new field is something that I know I'll take care of just as well. Even though it is turf, I'll still love it no matter what. So when I found out, along with the rest of the team, that we were getting a new field, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I was almost on the verge of tears. And I know some of our outfielders are here, and that outfield is a little bumpy at times. So I know they're definitely going to be excited to have a nice, smooth outfield. Parts of the bullpens are getting pretty tore up, so having turf bullpens will be really nice. And just, I wanted to say thank you to John. I'm also a recipient of one of his scholarships, and that definitely helps with the financial burden of college. And it really means a lot to me to be one of the recipients of your scholarship. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. The scholarships that you give to the athletes, I know there's a few of the girls on the softball team that are also recipients as well. It's something that we really recognize as a big part of your support, and you're at every game, you're right there on the line. Sometimes he'll talk a little crap, but that's okay. It definitely motivates me, so. Your support is just amazing, and I know the girls and I really cherish it, and we're really appreciative that you wanted to give us something, and we love it so much. So now I will hand it over to Dee Thompson, the president of the Oregon Tech Foundation Board.
I just told Allie that she's a pretty hard act to follow, don't you think? And you can see why our student athletes represent us so well and spread the reputation of Oregon Tech when they travel to tournaments and play around, play around the state and play around the nation. They're pretty hard kids to beat. Thank you, Allie. So it's an honor to be here with all of you today to officially break ground for the John and Lois Stillwell Softball Stadium. Athletes in schools impact not only the individuals who participate, but the school as a whole and the entire community as well. We participate in one way or another, and look what kind of fun, frivolity, seriousness it all adds to our lives. Pride in athletic teams also brings people together, putting us all in a cheering position for our team to win and to be successful. It is a reason, one of many, that creates newsworthy items that expand the knowledge of the general population about Oregon. I've heard some of us, some people refer to Oregon Tech as kind of a secret jewel right in our midst. And so having a softball team and athletics definitely helps get the word out there about what a great school we are and what great things the kids are doing here at Oregon Tech and when they get out into the workforce. So in the John and Lois Stillwell softball complex will certainly add to that reputation that Oregon Tech has established well. John and Lois Stillwell have supported and encouraged student athletes at Oregon Tech for many years and in many ways, from establishing close personal friendships with individual athletes, which you just heard a testimonial to, serving as surrogate families for some, hosting dinners for athletes at their home, to having the Stillwell Wall of Fame, a photo gallery of outstanding Oregon athletes in their home. It's quite an honor to have your picture on that wall. Clearly, their interest in student athletes goes far beyond attending games for their own personal enjoyment and entertainment. Thank you, John, for sealing the interest and passion you and Lois shared for Oregon Tech athletics by your most generous gift. The naming of the improved complex fittingly carries your names far into the future. I would also like to give a special thanks to key members of the Oregon Tech community who have helped during the project and bring it to fruition. Coaches Paul Poach and Greg Stewart for their involvement on behalf of the athletics department from the beginning of the project. Brian Fox and Tom Dara for their efforts on behalf of Oregon Tech finance and facilities. I know you have both put in a lot of time, planning, and behind-the-scenes work to make this all happen. And a special thanks to Christy Rett, a fellow board member with the Oregon Tech Foundation, whose professional expertise helped pave the way to bring this project to fruition. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Katie Cavendish, who put this wonderful event together. She planned it, she delivered it, she got everything set up, and so thank you, Katie, very much for bringing us all together to celebrate this wonderful day together. Thank you all for all your tremendous contributions and efforts. John, your thoughtfulness, your insight, and recognition of the importance that athletics contribute to students, their school, and the entire community is commendable. Thank you again. We appreciate you, and we are blessed and will continue to be blessed by your support of Oregon Tech and student athletics. Now I'd like to invite Oregon Tech President Dr. Nagi Naganathan to the podium.
Good morning. Good morning. What a pleasure to have all of you here today, and we could not have hoped for a better day in Klamath Falls. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful setting indeed. Thank you, Dee, for your time and energy and passion, and of course, many foundation board members here and their families. I want to thank you all for your continued engagement with Oregon Tech. I know there are boosters here, there are student athletes, faculty, staff, many community friends. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I too want to echo what Greg. Now, when I came on board, Greg was the interim athletic director, and he was such an ambassador for Oregon Tech. Aside from his duties, I thought he was a great ambassador for Oregon Tech. I got to learn a lot about Klamath Falls and the community. So please join me in a round of applause for his service to Oregon Tech. And he made sure we brought in a great one inside, John Van Dyke, whose passion for Oregon Tech and his awareness of Klamath Falls was very evident, and his fondness was very evident during our the interview process. I too want to say, as president, you get applauded many times when you get to share good things. I know I will also get the press when things don't go well, but then you get applauded, but that president doesn't do it all. It's all everyone here. So I want to recognize our faculty and staff and students who do a wonderful job every day making Oregon Tech what it is. I want to extend a special thanks to John Stilwell and the Stilwell family members that are here today, and obviously their generosity that we are celebrating on this particular occasion. And talking about Oregon Tech, every president I meet, when they describe the athletics, they always talk about student athletes. But I don't think I have ever seen a place where the description is so accurate. Our students, athletics gives a way for them to enter, enjoy that. But even Ali, what did she do? She corrected her academic status. She said, I'm a senior, not a junior. So they are such serious students, they play hard on the field, but I know how sincere they are in the pursuit of their academic program. So it's a pleasure to support each and every one of them, and many of you do. I know I don't have the permission to mention the magnitude of support. I want to recognize Glenn and Sherry Thomas that are here, who once again touched all of us with their generosity yesterday with an endowed scholarship for some of our student athletes. So please join me in congratulating and thanking the Thomas today. Believe it or not, this body managed to climb up to that O recently. And I was not in my suit either. And looking from there, really, you got to see the entire town of Klamath Falls and all the things that have happened. And that's when you begin to think about the topic of legacy. How, my wife is, one of these days, she's going to get bored when I keep saying it whenever we drive in Oregon. I said, I can't imagine all these people that walked all the way across the United States. They didn't have GPS. How did they ever navigate all these mountains, get to where they were going? And that shows the resilience of the people. That shows the legacy in terms of the past, what people have done to be where we are today, to be able to celebrate Oregon Tech at the levels we are here today. And legacy is also something going forward, looking forward. Whenever people used to ask me all the time, so what's going to be your at ABS? It should be a goal, it should be an outcome. Once it becomes a goal, you begin to do things to orchestrate it, and that is not healthy for the organization you are part of. But so many people that create the legacy do all the right things, like what John Lois have done in their lives. I think I mentioned it in a couple of different occasions. Lois and Christy Red here, they interviewed me when I came for the presidency. They represented the foundation. They asked some very tough questions. I still remember. I haven't forgotten my exam. But just the conversations that started, the connection that started. On the day before Lois passed on, and I had the pleasure of visiting John and Lois in their home, one of the things she told me, and this is a stretch goal even for Lois, she said, I will give you my running legs. It's going to take about 50 years before I get to running legs, but I'm working on it. But the way they got engaged with the university, the students, the community, it is just phenomenal. And legacy, as I said, is a reflection of the past and the vision for the future, and that's what John and Lois have done. They embrace the students, the programs, not just here, the Running Wise Scholarship. Everything they seem to have done, it was total commitment, total passion. And I think Dee referred to the Wall of Fame in their home, and John showed it to me proudly when I had a chance to visit. And that is all heart, and I think that's how people create the legacy. And the John and Lois Stillwell Stadium, what a nice ring to it. Some of us won't be around after a few years by nature, but that is going to be repeated thousands and thousands of times, and it is going to echo between these ranges when people talk about the announcement, talk about what these two individuals did for all the students and the legacy that is going to carry forward for many, many years to come. And obviously generosity breeds generosity, kindness breeds kindness, and we are going to see more and more of this here. Now, I was reminded of a Bob Dylan quote recently. He said, if you want to keep your memories, you first have to live them. You cannot keep prescribing it to others. And I believe that's what John and Lois did. They lived those memories. They truly cared about the students. They really cared about making a difference in their lives. He heard it from Allie as a representative of all of the students. And it is not support of athletics. It is really support of the students and what they are here in Oregon Tech for, and making sure their quality of life is wonderful. So John and Lois, we thank you for creating that memory for them while they are students here, which will influence many great things they are going to go on as leaders of tomorrow in the society. So on behalf of Oregon Tech, we want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts. Such projects are not even imaginable if within the constraints of a public university budget, and you are making a tremendous difference, not only in the lives of the students, in the lives of the entire community. So thank you. So on behalf of all of us, I've been asked to give you a large, huge group hug. I can easily do the large or huge part, but I cannot do the group part. But I will give you a hug. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming John Stillwell to the podium.
How the hell are you? We got to have a little fun, or otherwise I won't make it. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today to celebrate our Field of Dreams. Groundbreaking. Anyone that has ever watched baseball, softball, Field of Dreams means something. And when you have a dream, you dream big and you accomplish what you're doing. Personal thanks to Dr. Nagy, Dee Thompson, Christy Red, Paul Poach, and Tracy Ricketts. Without these people, when I first started thinking about where we were going to invest money, I had to have some direction from the university. And without these people, we wouldn't be where we are today. How this all started was purely accidental. We've always tried to do things for OIT, but you know, it's on a smaller scale, and my daughter and her family lived on a farm that we had out in between just this side of Merrill. And they'd lived there for a number of years, and I would go out there every day and change water and take care of things that were going wrong, and my daughter and their family lived in the house, in the farmhouse. Well, much to my surprise, the fall of 2016, they decided to move to Central Point. And I'm like, holy crap, now what am I gonna do? You know, I drive out there every day, it's 25 miles each way, take care of everything, and next thing I know, we have an empty house. And my wife and I bought the house in 1996 from one of my brothers. We lived in Minnesota, so I knew that I didn't want to start renting the house, and it's just a real headache. So our financial advisor in Minnesota, we have a lot of respect for her, and she's done some wonderful things for us. So we got a hold of Sandy. I call her Sandy the Dandy because she's this special. And we got a hold of Sandy, and it just so happened that she was the president of a donor advised fund. And I went, you know, what's a donor advised fund? And, you know, she explained it to me, and you know, that's an option that we kind of really were intrigued by, because this way we could give it to OIT, donate the farm to OIT, then they would sell the farm, the money off the farm, we had control of it. And I like that, having control of it. You know, it's like anything. If you have control of it, you think you're going to put it in the right place at the right time. So anyway, we did this. And when I got back, or after we talked with Sandy, I called Dee Thompson up. And, you know, I'd known Dee barely. She probably didn't want to know me, but, you know, she was stuck with Lois, and because what Lois did, I kind of traveled along with her. And Dee is a person that people that may not know her well, she's absolutely remarkable. She is probably one of the hardest working people, most genuine, knowledgeable. She's just a very special lady. So anyway, I call up Dee and find out what her schedule is. And she tells me she's going to be coming to Klamath Falls. And I told her what we were looking at, the potential of a donor advised fund. And she also had information on this. So she comes down, and she's up here at the campus, and I told her I'd come and pick her up. So I do. I come and pick her up, and she says, well, you know, what are you driving? I said, ass truck. So I pull up. Here's my big red truck, and she hops in, and, you know, it's pretty high off the ground, and it's got running boards, so she was able to get in okay. And so we take off and go out to the farm, and we start talking. I'd never sat with her, just the two of us, and talked. We get out to the farm, and we start looking around, and she's taking a lot of pictures, asking a lot of questions, making sure it was the right thing for OIT. And by the time we finished, it was late in the afternoon, and we're like, wow, where did all the time go? But on the way back, I brought her back to OIT, and that's when things started to happen. We started putting things in motion, and fortunately, everything went pretty smoothly. Not that everything's smooth, but it went pretty smooth. During the whole process, ran into a few speed bumps, and detours, and roundabouts where I was wondering where in the hell are we going with this, you know? We just kept kind of going around and around and trying to get all the paperwork consolidated where it was not only beneficial for OIT, but also for John and Lois. Because actually, there's tax implications if it isn't done right. And if you don't do it right, then you get burned. And I don't like to get burned. But thanks to Dee, that never happened. Well, as we're working along, then we ran into another problem. You know, the title company. It's like AmeriTitle is just swamped. And, you know, as Dr. Nagy had mentioned, Christy and Lois actually interviewed Dr. Nagy. So we had a pretty good in there with Christy, except for one thing. She didn't work for AmeriTitle anymore. And I'm like, wow, now what do we do? But Christy, like the woman she is, the professional she is, knowing what was going to happen with this farm and the community and everything, she stepped up to the plate and was able to hand carry the paperwork through AmeriTitle. And much to our surprise, Lois's and mine, we closed on March the 13th. One week before she passed. And without Christy, it wouldn't have happened. Now let's get back to the good things. Well, on July the 2nd, you know, after a couple months had passed and, you know, I cleared my head, I made an appointment with Brian Fox. I'd met Brian at a couple foundation meetings and we'd talked a bit, but I didn't know Brian, and I know he didn't know me, and probably after he met me, he probably wondered, why in the hell am I allowing him in my office? But anyway, we talked for a bit, and you know, we were very comfortable sharing information, and you know, I didn't tell him what I had in mind. I didn't think that it was appropriate to, you know, I wanted to see what the university, any projects that was going to involve the student athlete. Well, he told me they had 3 projects that they would like, you know, some funding for, and one of them happened to be additional renovation for the soccer field. And I thought about that for a bit, and then he said the second thing is right down the field here, the old football field and track. They were wanting to put in a new track and renovate some of the stadium. And I'm thinking, well, that's good too, but that's not really my main interest. And finally he goes, and we're looking at the softball complex. And I went, that's good too. You know, all 3 are good projects. And truly, any one of the 3, I would have felt, Lois and I would have felt good about donating to upgrade those facilities. Because no matter where you donate the money with the student athlete, you're pleased with the results that you see with the students, the interaction with the faculty. You talk to the students, they talk so highly of the faculty. They're so impressed with OIT. But the bottom line is, I didn't say, oh, I'd like the softball field. I thanked Brian for his time, and I left. And probably even the same day, I don't know for sure, but I called my old buddy Paul Poach. Paul is a guy that I've known for probably 35, 40 years, and he's worked in the county here forever. And I knew that he had a lot of contacts throughout the state. And I first shared with him the thought of just doing the field for the softball complex. And he's done this before with Field Turf, the company that we're using. And so I don't know if it was a week later, 10 days later, but the next thing I know, we're talking, and he brought back a number for the field, and And I thought that, was something within the budget that we could do, and, the kids would be happy, because the field out here is, if you go out and walk in the grassy area, it's an obstacle course. There's probably 5 or 6 different types of grasses. There's weeds, there's gopher holes. Every game, before the game, all the coaches are out here. The team is out here getting this field ready just to play on. And it's true with practice, games, and then after the game, in between the first game and the second one, then they have to do the same thing again. Well, this is going to this is going to eliminate this. They will never have to drag this field again. All the lines are in, everything is permanent. So anyway, after talking with Paul, I decided to go back to Brian. And, I don't have anything to do with OIT as far as officially, and, we kind of have to have their seal of approval on anything. So when I'm talking to Brian, I saw some interest there. And the more I thought about it, and I just started looking at this whole facility here, and like we were talking about earlier, the outhouse, or the outhouses, when there's games here, you have 3 or 4 of them over there. If we had a concession stand, we could do a lot more as far as drawing people to the games. So the bottom line, we decided to put that into the project. And then we started looking at the bullpens, and before every game, the kids are out there working the bullpen so they can practice warming up and everything. So we ended up putting that in there. So then we look at the stadium, and it's like, wow, the press box is right in our way. Nobody can see through this press box. They got the best seat in the house, and all the fans are scattered out all over the place. So we put a stadium in, and we'll put that press box up the hill and get them the hell out of our way so we can watch the game, which is going to be really nice. One thing that I was taught when I was growing up, when you do something, you always do it right the first time. Then you will never regret what you've done when you do it right. And after thinking about all this, we got everything put together, had a meeting with Brian, talked with Dr. Nagy, and the end result is going to be wonderful. It's going to be something that not only the university is going to be proud of, but the student athletes. They can bring clinics in here, more kids will come in here, be able to recruit more kids, better kids. Not that the kids now aren't good, because they're all good. There's not a kid on the team that I wouldn't take home with me. They're all super. Now, there's a little thing here that it really convinced me to do what we're doing, because Paul and Fritz and I went down to Cabo in April. And one day we're out walking the beach, probably after having a couple drinks, and we're walking along, and there's this nice 40, 50, 60-foot yacht goes by, and I looked at that and I said, man, Paul, that thing is beautiful. And he's going, oh yeah, that's nice. And I said, I could probably buy that thing. And he goes, yeah, that'd be really good. Then we could be cruising along. And I said, well, Paul, what makes better sense? Me buying that boat or putting this money towards the ballpark, which is going to affect all the kids, their families, the university. And you know what, Paul? I like the kids a hell of a lot better than you, so you're without a vote. He'll probably hit me later, but that's all right. I know I can outrun him. Greg mentioned about the assistant coaches, and I'll tell you, without the assistant coaches and all the team members, every game, things wouldn't run as smoothly as they do. And being an assistant coach, like Greg is saying, he gets most of the attention, but I'll tell you, they work their little tails off. And like Bill, he's not a young kid, and you know, he's gone through a lot of physical problems, but he's still out here, and he's still doing his job. He doesn't complain about anything, and I really thank the three of them. Now, this is unprepared, so I have to, I want to thank all of you for joining us in this celebration, and we look forward to seeing you again this fall when we host an official public dedication ceremony of the John and Lois Stillwell Softball Stadium. I would be honored for the following supporters and representatives to each grab a shovel, join me to officially breaking ground on this renovation. It's Dr. Nagy, Dee Thompson, Brian Fox, John Van Dyke, Tracy Ricketts, and Tom Dara. You're included in this too? Oh, the softball coach. I guess he should be up there. And probably the most important person here today is Allie Graham. A lot of people don't know Allie like I do, because Allie's special. When she plays her heart out every game. She's not a complainer. You know, this year she had a different role in the softball team. And she's a team player. She was taken from first base and was used as a DH. Pitched a few innings, but she's also a pitcher. But for the betterment of the team, she took that new role, and at least I never heard of her complaining. And the bottom line is, she still made honorable mention nationally. And that's pretty amazing when you're not a full-time player. But I call her Alley Cat, because she's tougher than hell, and she has a swing that's like silk. And she can hit that ball over the fence, just, you know, it's not cranking on it, but she just moves so smoothly. So I think it's time now to grab a shovel, and I want to see Dr. Nagy, not in the soft part, but in the hard part. Break some ground. Oh, this is soft. They really worked this up. They made it for me. Here. We did on three. 1, 2, 3. Yep. My pleasure.
Well, this concludes our ceremony. Again, thank you all for taking the time to come out. being part of this special celebration. And we just appreciate all the support that you guys give us on every level. Thank you to the grounds crew and facilities for all their hard work in getting this ready. And we really appreciate the local media coming out as always and supporting us the way they do here at Oregon Tech. So just again, I want to say a special thanks on behalf of the Oregon Tech softball team and the athletic department. And you guys have a great summer. Take care.